to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
This is Megan.
And on this episode that we forgot to tell you about last time, is a haunted location episode.
Yes, we are talking about 7 Gables Road in Dansville, Michigan, which is not to be confused with the 7 Gables house, because there is a house involved in the story, but the 7 Gables house that everybody kind of has heard of is the one that's in Salem, Massachusetts. But this is 7 Gables Road, and is considered one of the most haunted roads in Michigan.
Yeah. And if it seems that I'm less input, it's because I'm tired.
Yep.
I'm just messing.
No. No.
No, it's just, it's funny enough because me and Mecca were talking about, because we didn't talk about beforehand what episode we were planning to do this week, because we're all focused on last week trying to catch up on, because we skipped a week. Yeah. So we didn't think about what we're going to do this week. And she was like, and I was like, well, there's a little TikTok of a video I saw, something like haunted places, and this one was one of it because it looked interesting. Especially the story behind it was like, damn. It was like one of those places that I always keep record of, just in case we drive through at any point in time, so we can investigate.
Yeah, because as you see, as we go like on with the story, a lot of paranormal investigators and people that have investigated it kind of don't 100% believe the lore and legend, but do believe that there's paranormal activity there regardless. So it's pretty interesting. And
it almost reminds me, and you understand this reference. It almost reminds you of The Conjuring.
The story, yeah.
The story. So that makes you wonder if the story of The Conjuring movie kind of ripped some things off of this, or there's just that strong correlation.
One thing that we're going to be doing that is new with haunted locations, because we were trying to figure out, like, we were brainstorming what can we do to spice up the content a little bit.
Or separate us from the pack.
Yeah.
If we don't already.
Gosh. And one of the things that we decided to do was, obviously, in the last Shadow Walker Part 5, Isaac talked about me remote viewing. And I always talk about channeling. I always talk about remote viewing, like when I'm researching. It just kind of like automatically happens. I was thinking, well, what if I incorporate that into haunted location episodes? Like, at the end of each episode, I'll tell you the story, tell you the history, tell you the backstory, and then at the end of the episode, tell you what I got when I remote viewed and when I channeled. Anything that came through while I was researching, because there was some stuff on this location in particular that came through, and I saw certain spots before I saw certain spots, if that makes sense. Like, I had, things come to me in specific locations. Like, if I were to go there, I would go to these specific locations. And I'll tell you why at the end of the episode. But I never, prior to, the only thing I ever saw of this location was the gate at the front, which there's significance to that. But I never saw any of the other trail parts. I never saw anything like that. And when I was channeling, I saw this specific part of the trail without seeing pictures of it. So let's just dive in. So 7 Gables Road, like I said, is located in Dansville, Michigan. And to give you kind of a reference point, anybody that's maybe listening that's from that area, it's 3 miles south of downtown Dansville. And then Dansville itself is a small community about 25 miles southeast of Lansing, Michigan, which I've never, I personally don't know. I wouldn't hear that and be like, oh, I know where that is. So 7 Gables Road itself is a dead-end road off of Dexter Trail. And the thing is, you have to go by foot. You can't go by car. It's impassable by car. So you have to walk the trail. And one advisory that a lot of the articles did say, so if you do hear this and do want to go venture out there, just be aware there's like rattlesnakes, there's wildlife like coyotes, that kind of thing. The road itself to get to 7 Gables Road, it's very bumpy. So just make sure you have a car that can take it. And there's only one way in, which is through a red... This is going to sound weird because I say it weird.
What?
Wrought iron?
Rod iron.
Rod iron.
Rod iron.
Rod iron.
Why do you have to say with a country
I
accent?
don't know. Wrought iron.
Wrought iron gate over there with the dang thing on top of it.
I would be, if we ever went there, I would be like talking normal, like, yeah, you know that wrought iron gate? That wrought iron gate?
Because you want to say wrought iron.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking. I call wrought iron.
No, rod, like iron rods.
Oh, wrought. I can't. Wrought iron. Okay. We're just gonna say iron gate, okay?
It's
an iron padlocked gate. So here's where things get a little like weird. Okay, so the legend of it is originally there was a witch that did witchcraft on the land, and she had a house, and there was a group of armed men that went to her house. You know, you're doing witchcraft. That kind of thing. Yeah, that kind of thing. And decided to burn her entire house with her inside of it. And before she died, she cursed the land. And that's where the other part of the legend comes into play, because the whole premise is that they believe that the land itself is cursed. The other part of the story is that there was a family that moved in, not exactly where like the witch supposedly had lived. I don't really think they have an exact location of where she lived. If it is true, like I said, this is just a legend. This is just a lore. The witch part of it anyways, and the cursed part and all of that stuff. But there was a family that moved into a house that was along Seven Gables Road. And apparently the father went mad, or some people have even said he was possessed, killed all of his family, hung them from the gables of the house, and then hung himself on one of the trees that are further out into the woods. Now, the house is no longer there. It was demolished in the 70s. But the tree that the father hung himself on is known as the hanging tree.
This is where the Conjuring thing was in correlation with.
Yeah.
At least the story that was told in the movie.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You have to wait to when I tell you about like the remote viewing stuff, because it's kind of interesting. Anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this is another part of the legend. So even creepier. So you know that wrought iron gate at the front. Only way you could get through. Apparently, if you hear a woman scream and you're running away, the last person that gets over the wrought iron gate through or over, you could jump over it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Jump
over.
Yeah. The last person is supposed to die within 3 days.
Mm.
And anyone that's kind of like into anything spiritual, good or bad, knows that 3 is a significant number. So that's kind of interesting. I thought that was interesting. That it was like 3 days. Within 3 days, you're a goner.
How true is that?
So when you look up articles, there's no person that has essentially had that happen died from that. At least that's what the articles say, of like people that have investigated and people that have looked into all of the things. There was a lot of like local news channels in Michigan that covered the Seven Gables Road and then technically the house area. All 694 acres of land currently are owned by the Department of Natural Resources. So like I said before at the very beginning, there was paranormal investigators, and there's even been a psychic medium that has gone out there. There's a psychic medium named Tammy Schuster. I think I'm saying that name out right.
Schuster.
Schuster, yeah. And she's well known in the Michigan area for being a prominent psychic medium. She basically was able to find the foundation of the house. She went to investigate at night, but came back during the day. The foundation, she has said that it's not near the gate, but off Seven Gables Road back into the woods. She explained when she did find the foundation that it wasn't like an ominous feeling, that it was more at peace and happy when she found the foundation of the house. So I'm thinking it's the foundation. They weren't really specific. I don't think it's the witch house. I think it's more the house. Because I don't know if they were trying, I'm pretty sure they were trying, I don't know if they were trying to say the witch house was the same as the house that the family lived in. Because I don't get that. Like when I read the story and stuff, I feel like it's two different things. Like the house, the Seven Gables Road house, and then the cursed land, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The one psychic medium was trying to group it together, like trying to say that it was the same, was it? Or trying to figure out if it was the same house. The foundation that she found was dated. They found like the actual foundation, and then a wrought iron pipe started popping up, and it was actually part of the staircase. And like I said, the house that apparently the guy hung his family from and he hung himself from was demolished in the 70s.
By the way, for everyone listening, all this information I'm receiving the same time as you, because Megan kind of ran wild with this episode.
Yeah, because I thought that was interesting. Like when I heard the story, it would be a place that I would want to go investigate. I think it's interesting. And like you said, it did have very Conjuring type vibes.
Well, we're attracted to anywhere that has darkness.
The foundation and the pipe and stuff, they did find that it was dated. They did know it was a house, but they did figure out that it wasn't burned down. So I'm thinking that investigators and stuff are trying to say that like the witch house, but that makes no sense though. If the witch house was burned down or supposedly burned down, it wouldn't be the same as
they built upon the ashes.
I don't know.
Or the same location.
Wait to the remote viewing.
All right.
Even though the psychic medium did say that when she was at the foundation, uncovering the foundation, she did get a peaceful, happy like vibe. She had gone there a couple different times and did find at night and did see dark shadow figures, and she believed that a portal was in one of the trees. So possibly a portal. She said she did get extremely nauseous at one point. Her and her friend, the nauseousness didn't go away like miles down the road. Like they had to get completely away from it. That was interesting.
We've never really gotten it, but we've been around people who have gotten they had stomach problems, like they got to take the poops real bad, or they got like what's the word? Dysentery. Dysentery.
Yeah.
From being around certain.
I haven't gotten really dysentery. I don't like to eat before investigation, so if for whatever reason you ever see me, you're like, why did you eat with your team?
No, you make me stop at Taco Bell on the way home.
On the way home, though, man, I could throw back like 2 cravings boxes. Like going there, I just don't eat. I can't. I'll eat throughout the day, but like earlier, I won't actually like eat before. So like I said before, most ghost hunters and investigators that have been there's been a couple like that have actually recorded stuff with that you can go on YouTube and like check out and stuff and walk. Well, I'll put the links in the description so you guys can go and check it out. Most ghost hunters and investigators have claimed that paranormal activity isn't a hoax. There is something going on there, but they don't believe 100% in the witch story and even 100% in the hanging story. I think we actually have a house here that something like that happens. It's called the Mayo House in Tarboro, North Carolina, where like the dad went mad and like killed all the kids. And
we have a hanging tree that we passed by.
Where?
In the Octagon House.
Oh yeah, there's that too. But that's
a story about that. Granted, I experienced a lot of paranormal stuff in my life up to that point, but nothing that clear. Because I remember Mike, who's on a paranormal team, me and yours first investigations together. I think I went there once by myself, but when we were all there together, he was saying about the hanging tree, how they used to hang people from there. And at the moment, I looked up and I see the shadow figure of someone's feet hanging from the tree.
Yeah.
Like swinging at me. I'm like, oh, shit. And I remember I ducked and like, what? And I looked up and like, oh, I saw like feet hanging from the tree. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a hanging tree. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
crap. Yeah.
The Octagon House functioned as a plantation at one point. So that just tells you right there.
And these woods were about 50 yards away from the main house. So yeah.
So like I said, the house was demolished in 1973. Some of the things that people have heard is screams, somebody hanging from a tree. Like they've driven past the road and actually seen somebody hanging from a tree. Car crashes around the area, like seeing things and then getting into a car crash. Some of the paranormal investigators have said that like their tape recorder died, weird voices came through, a tree with fog around it. Like there's a specific tree that has like fog that would just be around the tree and nowhere else. Tammy S., who was the psychic medium that I talked about a little bit earlier, she said she's not afraid of the land, but she was afraid what's on the land, if that makes sense. So basically, She doesn't believe the land is cursed, but she believes that there are things coming through on the land. Whatever is on the land, not the land. That makes sense. And she said that when she was there, if someone was murdered there, she would have definitely felt it, because she described souls that are murdered as feeling uneasy, but she didn't feel that. She didn't feel any kind of witch vibes, no cursed land. Certain areas even had a happy feeling, especially when she started exposing the foundation.
Mm.
So that's kind of interesting. According to the county newspaper archives, the property was sold in 1927 and 1944. So, and they don't even give a date as to when the witch stuff happened, or a date when the hangings supposedly happened. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of up in the air. Especially one thing that I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on a couple different things, because there was a couple different things going on with this location, obviously. I know I've talked about it on here, but I had read a while ago about the idea that wrought iron gates, fences, whatever, entrap paranormal entities, right? Like, they keep them in like entrapment, right? A lot of cemeteries have it.
Used to have it. Most cemeteries made now don't have gates.
Well, yeah, it's fading out, but there's a reason. I'm going to get into that, because essentially they were originally used to keep wildlife out as well as people.
Yeah.
Some plantations have that. Some ranches even have the wrought iron gates. So it would be interesting one day to like figure out like what haunted locations actually have wrought iron gates, and see if the paranormal activity kind of stays entrapped in there. Like, so like Skinwalker Ranch would have a wrought iron gate, right? Your ranch would have a wrought iron gate. Yeah. Does.
Well, it's a cattle gate, but yeah, it's made of iron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but you have a bunch around because of the ranches.
Yeah.
So, but I did find one article that was, I had to reword it in like a weird way to get any kind of search, because I was like, I remember reading this, because it was like connected to, I remember was researching the Foscue Plantation, which is the one location around here that has a wrought iron gate all around it. And in the blog, because they don't really say that it's paranormal, even though there's been like blog posts and stuff about hearing slaves like in the attic, and it was supposedly one of the worst plantations in the South. Like, it was brutal. Like, apparently like blood stains will come through, but the owners, I don't think, like, they wanted more of a history thing versus like paranormal teams have tried to get in there, but I don't think they can investigate. Anyways, I was reading stuff on it, and one guy brought up the idea that there's a huge wrought iron fence around the whole property. And I remember that kind of led me down a rabbit hole on wrought iron. And I found this, because I was like, I know I read stuff about it. I know I'm not just pulling this from my butt. But this article by Cemetery Insight and Beyond, they had said that wrought iron fences were believed to be placed around cemeteries to protect the living from the spirits of the dead. People believe that the ghosts of their dead loved ones could follow them from the cemetery if preventative measures were not made. Iron was believed to contain the Earth's life force, and many cultures believe that it possessed magical properties. It's also explained that iron was believed to ward off both benign and evil spirits. Just as it's believed that spirits could not cross water, it is also believed that they could not move through or pass iron.
Makes you wonder why I guess there was only iron available at the time, but now you know why some people put iron horseshoes above their doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Okay, so one thing it says, if you see an iron fence and the upper portion of its bars is pointed in towards the cemetery rather than away from the ground, you can be rest assured it was constructed that way to ward off spirits. Wrought iron bars pointing inwards towards the burial ground were meant to prevent the spirits of the dead from escaping. So that's kind of interesting information to know. Like, now when you go to a cemetery, you can kind of figure out like what the original,
if it does have a gate.
Yeah. No, You say it wasn't. It's not common. The one that is here, right? That you want to investigate. There's a wrought iron fence around it. The Jacksonville Cemetery.
Yeah, because the cemetery was made like...
No, that one wasn't that. That wasn't that. That's 70s.
1800?
70s.
That graveyard was in the 70s? Jacksonville's been around since...
Oh, that's true.
1800s.
I forgot the downtown area. So, like, where my aunt is buried is technically 70s, like 80s. Like
no,
that.
Jacksonville Cemetery in town?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's like 1800s, if not earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that would make sense.
You'll forget how old North Carolina is.
I guess so. No, well, downtown itself, that's why me and Isaac have been kind of itching to get into that area, is because downtown itself is freaking old. Like, old. You know, obviously it's new buildings, so you don't really think of that, but like some of the buildings were original from the 1800s. Because that's where, because it's right on the river, so that's where settlements and stuff used to. But then when the hurricanes and flooding started happening, they had to retreat back, and so Jacksonville started spreading that way. Dun dun. Yeah.
Wait.
But another thing that I thought was super interesting is the curse. It makes you think, because the one thing I kept going back to, where it was like, you know, it said, if you are the last one to pass through the Iron Gate, 3 days you die. I always think back, when I think of curses and stuff like that, I think back to, I hate even really talking about it, but like Robert the Doll, about how, isn't it like, if you don't like respect him when you take photos or ask him or talk to him,
the bad can happen to you.
Yeah. And it's just amazing to me, the fact that something like that, like a curse like that, can influence like death or car accident or illness. It's just amazing to me, and I thought that was an interesting point to bring up. But like I said, from just doing the research, there really wasn't anybody that like testified to that. I think it's just like a scary like ghost story that gets, that part anyways, that gets told around, you know, the local lore kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, what did you see?
Okay, so starting this new thing. Okay, so when I first started researching, immediately, I wasn't even, all I did was look at the wrought iron gate entrance, and I immediately got like shot through over there to the wrought iron gate area. I went past the wrought iron gate to this location on the trail. And now granted, prior to this, I did not see any part of the like trail. I just saw the front part, where the wrought iron gate is. This female came forward, and she was adamant about communication. Like, I wish that I could go there and like actually like communicate. And I think that is one thing. I don't know. I haven't actually like talked to any of the investigators that have gone there. But I think one of the main things, if anybody does go investigate there, is to listen. Because this woman that came forward, she was young. She wasn't old. She was young. In somewhat of a nightgown. It was pretty dated. Barefoot. She wanted to be heard. She had something to say, but she couldn't. She had a hard time communicating to me while I was remote viewing. It was to the point where she wanted to communicate so bad, I thought she was going to piggyback here. If that makes sense. Because that's the one thing when I remote view, I put that boundary up, like nothing can piggyback unless I wanted to piggyback, you know, if it's really dark. She herself was peaceful. It was just almost like frantic, like, yes, somebody can listen to me. Yes, I got something to say. But she couldn't say it. It was like, what was she saying? And she had long brownish hair. And she specifically is at the spot. I guess like I said, I don't know because I haven't actually been there, but you go past the wrought iron gates. She's not where the house supposedly is, because I saw the video afterwards of where the house is, where they found the foundation. She's not over there. She's down the trail. And I don't think she's evil. I think she's just someone that's trapped there, whether she's coming through from the portal or not. I don't know where the actual tree is that the portal supposedly is. But if I recommend anybody take your digital recorders in spirit box and don't do much talking and just listen. I don't think it's as bad. I feel like the Conjuring house, and there's other locations that are bigger, badder than this location. It reminds me a lot of the Octagon house. But it's not as, like, there's not a lot of witchcraft going on. If that makes sense. Now, who knows? Because there could be, like, you know, I mean, any high paranormal place, especially if there's dark entities involved, could have, like, satanic rituals and witchcraft stuff, but I really didn't get that vibe when I went there. It was for the most part peaceful, like, but there is some stuff. The further you go back, there is some stuff. There's a certain, it's like you pass a threshold and it kind of gets worse, but I don't know. But there is definitely a female spirit there that is wanting to communicate. So I don't know if anybody has been there anytime recently, but like I said, because most of the paranormal investigators I saw did a lot of talking. Like, they were talking to each other. They were talking just out loud. And I think that if anybody goes there, just to go there and just be quiet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do think there is shadow things. I don't think it's as bad as, like, say you were to go to the Conjuring house. Or I personally don't think there's a witch there. I think it's that was just lore and legend. Now, the house part, I don't know. It wouldn't let me go where the house foundation part is, but it would only let me go down that trail. So there's, like, for me, if I were to go there, down the trail.
What if the girl is the girl that was murdered and burned in the house that was told she was a witch? Or they accused her of being a witch?
I mean, settlement clothing. If anybody's going there, she's on that trail where it's like, it literally is like every single, like, trail road thing. It's like two pathways. You know, like when we go down the, Pringle Road, not Pringle Road, but, Patsy's Pond. And you have the arching of the trees.
Now, you're telling me this, but no one else knows what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, sorry. When we go through Patsy's Pond, if anybody has watched our YouTube video or whatever, and there's the overhanging of the trees, I'll post a picture on Instagram for people to see what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Yeah, so you guys can see. And there's an actual picture. I don't think it's on purpose. I remember I was, like, freaking out when I saw it. Or it looks like something's in the background. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, is it the girl? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's where if it was me, that's where I would go. And there's a lot of communication there. But here's the thing. If she's something's preventing her from saying that. Meaning something somewhere in that, I mean, you're talking 694 acres. Something dark is preventing her from talking full force, because I got the feeling like she was wanting to talk. She did not want to be there. She wanted to talk. She wanted to get her story out, but it's like she didn't have the ability to bulk up on the power to be able to communicate forward, if that makes sense. That's what I got. And like I said, what I get, and especially in what I share remote viewing in these episodes, different psychics can peer into a location and get different things. So that is just what shows up for me. That for whatever reason, when I remote viewed, she took an interest in me, and that's what she was coming forward with. Yeah, that's what I got. And it was very, like when I remote viewed, back of my neck was tingling. Everything was tingling, like everything, which means normally that is somebody that wants to get their stuff out. Like, hey, I need to communicate with you. I need to talk to you. I need to get this out. I need to talk to you, you know? Normally when I get that on an investigation, that's normally what that is for me. That's something. And Patsy's Pond is a great example. When I was at Patsy's Pond, there was a specific spirit that was just like, not stuck to me, but like he just wanted to get his stuff across. And he was there every single time. He didn't want to cross over, but he wanted to get his stuff out. And he would consistently just like make me feel what he's feeling and make me feel. He wasn't dark or anything like that. He was just trying to get his stuff across because somebody can listen. For whatever reason, at that location, I would probably be bombarded by her. And it is a her. Like, it's not like thing portraying to be a female. And it's not. Because I specifically asked when I was there, like, show me your true form. Let me see, like, are you who you say you are? Whatever. And ever since I did remote view, if Michigan wasn't that far away, I would go to Michigan and help her. Like, that's how dire her communication forward was.
Well, it's a new interesting twist to our haunted location episode is that we can have Megan remote view in and give us a real time what she sees there.
Yeah. And like, I think it would be interesting to know, because like I could sit here and you could go and read any article and get the same information sometimes that we say, because the history and the backstory, but I want to make sure that you leave every episode with something new, either a new perspective, a new theory, a new idea, a new question, a new answer even. And so doing this, I think and if any investigators are close by and want to take what I say and go put it to the test, they can. So
what are we doing next week?
So next week, I know we talked a little bit about it when we did the raw law of one, but we are diving into pyramids.
Oh, yeah.
Because the raw law of one of the things that they talked about was that pyramids were healing centers. So we're going to dive into the different pyramids, any paranormal activity that has been surrounded by them, and then kind of like theories and ideas, because there's some that say like aliens. There's some alien theories behind them.
Well, the pyramids around the world.
Yeah.
The same monolithic structure that has been built over and over again across the planet. So there's some connection to them.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's going to be interesting is pulling from different people, what different people have said, like Dolores Cannon, the raw law of one, what they've said, and different things. So
the crazy haired ancient alien guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that week, following that Monday, we'll have a bonus episode that Wednesday with Lindsey Bisbane of the Chilling Podcast.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I talk about it in the bonus episode, but our interview telling about her story, yeah. We even counted some shit, but if you want to hear it from the perspective of someone who has no clue what's going on and experiencing some of the most dangerous thing possible, yeah, you hear it from her perspective and stuff like that. And then I'll probably talk about a little more at the end of the pyramid episode and bring it up to her episode. But I'll let you know right now, if you want to get ahead of that interview, go listen to the Chilling Podcast.
Yeah, it's a good podcast. It's really good, especially if you like hearing people's perspective. Obviously, she lived in a haunted house, more than haunted house.
Yeah, but we got the pyramids and then that bonus episode that Wednesday. As always, guys, you can catch our social medias at Hidden the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden the Shaw 6 on Twitter, Hidden the Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all our social media and all ways you listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. And as always, we'll catch your Weirdos in the next one.
Yup.